Hey, I want to welcome you guys all to another episode of the Podluck, a conversation podcast about the intersection between culture and faith and the Korean American Adventist experience. My name is Chris. I'm one of the hosts, and I'm joined by Jason, our co-host here at the Podluck. Jason is, I think we call it on location right now, and so this is kind of a special podcast episode. Jason is currently over in the East Coast. Jason, why don't you tell us a little bit about where you are and what you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm on the East Coast. As Chris said, I'm on location, so I don't have my usual setup. My background obviously is very different. My audio is going to sound really weird, but I am at East Coast Korean Camp Meeting here in Johnstown, Pennsylvania at the University of Pittsburgh, Johnstown. So I was here since Wednesday. So it's this is my first time back. I came once to speak in 2018, but before that, the last time I was here was seminary, and so it's been quite a while since I've been back.
So if you're not familiar, in the kind of Adventist church in general, camp meetings are like the big event of the year, and the Korean church has two of their own camp meetings. There's an East Coast camp meeting and then a West Coast camp meeting. Both of them happen in the summer. And as you can tell by the names, they're just kind of divided by the coasts. I don't know where people in the middle go. Well, I feel like people in like the Midwest and Chicago, they go to East Coast camp meeting. And then I don't know, like people from Denver would come to West Coast camp meeting. I don't know the exact line, but that's kind of how it works.
Felt like Denver. So West Coast got Denver, East Coast got Texas.
Oh, okay, East Coast gets Texas.
At least when I was more active here, we had a lot of people from Texas.
And some people may not know, but Texas also does their own, actually.
Yes.
A Southwest, like Texas, Oklahoma. I actually spoke for that once years ago, and I don't want to get into it, but it was like a really rough week for me.
Like, in terms of like, you were tired or?
Well, you want me to get into it?
I mean, yeah, a little bit. You can't say it was rough and just.
So basically, I was asked to be the speaker, but when I got there, I actually had to be the coordinator and the speaker. Like there was no coordinator. And I knew something was up when they asked me, "Hey, do you play guitar?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Can you bring your guitar?" And so I was like, "Sure." Like I'm fine to play guitar. Like I love guitar. And then they were like, "Can you bring some like sheets with words on it for the songs?" And I was like, "Dude, what's going on?" So I went there and I had to do a lot. I wasn't just speaking, but they did compensate me fairly handsomely. So I'm not complaining.
Worth it.
Yeah. So right now, if you hear a lot of the background noise, it's because Jason is in some kind of common area, and I think worship just got out, and people are, walking around. I guess moving on to whatever comes next. So Jason, just tell us real quick, how has the week been over there at East Coast Camp Meeting?
It's been good. I mean, again, I only jumped in about halfway through, so I kind of came in after everything was set. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a while. The core leadership largely has stayed the same. So there's a couple members from the admin team that I work with when I was here, 10, 15 years ago. And they've added some new people. We've lost a few people. But people kind of keep asking me like how it feels. Like, is it the same? And it's funny how like familiar everything is. And so there's like minor changes with like programming and things that didn't happen when I was here, but like by and large, just it's very familiar, in a comforting way.
So I was gonna ask, is that a good thing?
I think so. Like, so there's two things that struck me when I came. The first is it sounds really weird when I say this, but like the smell is the same. Like,
Okay.
So there's a dormitory in East Coast. It's called Willow, and that's where we put all the leaders. And so the way it's structured or the way it's set up is it's like a living area, and then there's 2 hallways, and then there's like 5 rooms, single rooms. And so we just shove like like 4, 5, 6 people in those single rooms, and then some people sleep
Okay.
in the common area. And so that dormitory has a smell to it. Not because like people are in there, but just the smell of the building itself mixed with the smell of like, I don't know how many liters there are, like, 70, 50 liters. It's a smell that, when I was here, I would smell it every day for 10 days.
Hmm.
And it still smells the same. So I'm in a building called Living Learning Center. This is basically like the hub of East Coast Camp Meeting. So there's no West Coast equivalent. I guess it's a registration building. But registration's like down the bridge, the high school department's here, and then like the school front desk is here. So this place has a smell that I recognize. Do you not experience that when you go somewhere you haven't been in a while? Like
Yeah, no, I would say PUC has that too.
PUC, yeah, sure. I mean,
PUC
right.
has that too. I think I'm most familiar with the men's dorms because I went to school there as well. And so we don't really stay there anymore. Like Newton is not really like where people stay. But when I was younger in camp meeting, I would say Newton. And when I was a student here, I said, so Newton has a smell. And so I know what you're saying. And it's apart from whether it smells good or bad, it brings back memories
Yeah.
and with that emotions, because we all know like smells bring, they're connected to our memories and stuff. And so, I mean, that's cool. That's cool that you go there and it's been such a long time, but there's a familiarity.
There is. And that actually brings me to the second like most striking thing is and there's no other way to put it without me sounding very like conceited, and that's not what I'm trying to get at. But like it was striking how few people recognize me. I know
Okay.
it sounds extremely conceited. I'm not sitting like writing like, oh, they didn't.
Wow.
What I mean is
Cannot believe they don't recognize you. You and your K-pop demon hunter hair.
um
Okay, you're saying that. Okay, so here's what I think you're saying.
uh-huh.
You've been involved in for such a long time, and there was a time where like everybody knew you because you were
Yeah.
running things and stuff. And I
Yeah.
think what you're saying is it's been so much time and so many new people. It's grown. There's new people involved that have no idea of the Jason Kim legacy of East Coast Camp Meeting.
Yeah, it's not even legacy. It's I mean, we the way that East Coast Camp Meeting and East Coast Kaiyam was structured was the East Coast Kaiyam was almost like a feeder like farm system for Camp Meeting. And so we would develop these leaders and send the Camp Meeting to kind of go into all the different departments. And so for the longest time, I knew who all the leaders were and who they were going to be because they were students at East Coast Kaiyam. And so with the combination of Kaiyam ending and the long gap of Haim, yeah, all these leaders, I have no idea who they are. It's
So
not one
what you're
generation. It's like multiple generations of.
what you're describing here, Jason,
Mhm.
is you are getting old. Is what you're describing here.
Right. And the
You are
only
getting
people.
old, and then the next generation or 2 generations have come.
It's like 3 generations.
And so
Yeah.
what you're feeling is that you are an old person now.
I am an old person because the only people who do recognize me are like 50 years old.
Yes. So I know you give me a hard time all the time about being old, but that is what you're describing here. Well, welcome.
Old is a spectrum. I think I can experience this, and you are also much older than I am. That can both be true at the same time.
I'm just saying, you're getting what you dish out. You have so reaped what you have sown, my friend. But I think I know what you're talking about, though. But
Yeah.
have you been, having a good time out there
I think
reconnecting with your East Coast folks?
so. Well, yeah, there's a few people I haven't seen in a really long time. There's some people who, most of the people I don't know. But there's a group from Chicago here, and these people I've known for since I was really little, and so it's good to see them. The admin team that I used to work with, they're all still here, so it's good to see them too. It's different because I brought one of my kids with me,
Yeah.
and
How's he
so
enjoying it?
um I think he likes it. He's like super shy. So even at church, he doesn't want to go in the classroom by himself. I have to go in with him. And so I was kind of worried about that. I like asked my parents to come up to help. But he has this one friend who lives in Maryland, and they have the same like soul and the same energy, and so they get along really well. So that's helped a lot with him going to VBS. VBS leaders
Right.
are great. They're doing a great job here. Um, yeah, Yeah, it was weird because none of them knew me, and that's the department that I worked with the most when I was here.
They
And
should
I,
put your picture up in every room.
you know, I wasn't gonna say that, and I don't think that they should do that. But if you think they should do that, I can forward that message to the admin here and say Chris Chong feels strongly that my picture is up at the VBS.
You have to remember and honor the past and honor the elders of your department. All right, cool. So, I've only been to East Coast Camp Meeting once. It was when I was in seminary, and it was like the first year there was an EM adult program.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
so like that was kind of a running joke through the week that there was like this is a new program, like nobody's there, but I somehow became in charge of. I
Mhm.
ran the East Coast Camp Meeting adult program for the first time, and my first time ever attending.
Mhm.
Um, I'm kind of curious, like, how's my baby doing? After all these
Yeah.
years, how's the EM adult program?
I forgot that you started it. They should have your picture up at EM Adults.
You said it,
I
not me.
mean, it'll scare away a lot of the people, but we should still honor the elders. No, it's doing well. I mean, I don't have the registration numbers, but yeah, it's got to be at least like 50 or 60.
Oh, awesome,
Um, we
awesome.
have a lot of not a lot. We have a number of families from the West Coast who came, who are there. I mean, yeah, EM Adults is definitely one of the bigger groups at Cat Meeting. We kind of saw it right when I was leaving. It was kind of growing, and then I think since then it's grown. But you're right, that department didn't exist. It wasn't even like a dying department. It was just non-existent.
Yeah.
So good job.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Good
I
legacy.
think one of the things that I wanted to do in this episode is ask some questions about East Coast Camp Meeting.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a West Coast Camp Meeting episode as well, so we don't want to have too much like repetition in talking about what's different. But I am curious about some of the differences East Coast Camp Meeting, especially now, and kind of what you've seen so far. I think one of the biggest differences is the way it is led and the structure of the leadership. So it's pretty different than West Coast. That's probably one of the biggest differences between West Coast and East Coast. So, Jason, could you kind of elaborate and kind of talk to us about how the admin team works?
Yeah. So that is one of the biggest differences. So basically, East Coast Camp Meeting, it started in the same way as the West Coast, in the sense that it used to be hosting churches, right? And there used to be the rotation and all those things. And the problem with the East Coast is that a lot of the churches started to die down um
You mean
very
in terms of
quickly.
size
Yeah,
and like
size and
manpower and
exactly
financial
manpower,
ability?
all of that. And um the so in 20, I want to say or no, sorry, 2008, um Virginia Church hosted. So I was part of that because I was a children's pastor at the time. And someone from Georgia, his name is Jimmy Kim, he was one of the pastors down there. He had the idea of, he saw the landscape. He knew what was inevitably going to happen is that these churches just can't, this is a unsustainable model. And so he was thinking, why don't we collect leaders and we run camp meeting? We can still outsource certain things to different churches and utilize pastors, but let's kind of centralize it. And his big thing was more like, because he had coordinated before the Atlanta churches, and the problem is every time a host coordinates camp meeting, you're essentially restarting the process. You know what I mean? And so he was saying you're resetting every year. There's no continuity. There's no long-term vision or growth. Because once your church is done, you're like next. Like you want to get rid of it as soon as possible. Which I'm sure you can, empathize with. Because since I moved to the West Coast, I feel like Rock has hosted, twice now?
Twice, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a sense of like, just get to Saturday, and then let someone else deal with it.
Little bit, yeah.
Right. And so that's kind of what he wanted to avoid. And so he brought in like the first 4, and we started the admin team that way. And the thing that the reason it works better on the East Coast is because East Coast, we had, even back then, maybe 4 full-time pastors in the entire coast. And so camp meeting is very lay driven out here. And so it's not so tied to the local church. All these leaders come and we just kind of bring them in, and then we kind of divvy up the responsibilities. All the coordinators are lay leaders. Pastors don't usually run things unless they have like a department that they've been wanting to run, which I didn't do that, but yeah. And so that's where it started. And then we started kind of growing the team. Some people left, some people jumped in. And so back then, the idea was we wanted to model the camp meeting themes after the faith journey. And so there's the idea of the faith journey is that it's a circle and it's not linear, it's circular. And so it's an ebb and flow. And the thing is when you've kind of drifted away from God, you can re-enter at any point in the circle. You don't have to start here. And so that's all. So the 7-year theme. And we would repeat the 7 every 7 years. And the idea is anyone can jump in at any point and still understand the 7-year vision, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, I thought that was an amazing idea. And then the other like practical thing is we could bring in bigger, quote, bigger name speakers. So one person we kept asking and kept saying no was actually a guy named Chris Chong. We would keep asking and he kept saying no. And so the benefit is we'd say, okay, so let's pretend like, can you speak 2027? I'm too busy. Can you speak 2028? I'm too busy. Can you speak 2029? I'm too busy. Can you speak 2030? I guess. And then we lock you in for 2030. And because it's the same admin team, we have that level of longevity. Your response. Okay.
You make it sound like I avoided it or I was trying not to or something like that. I did speak during COVID for East Coast Camp Meeting on Zoom. And that's rough, dude. That's really hard, okay?
I can definitely understand how hard it is to do a camp meeting through Zoom. But your name would pop up when I was part of admin, which was long before pandemic.
Yeah, no, well, I'd be happy to do it. I think this is not what this podcast is about today. It is not about why I said no. But if you would like to relay it, let's talk. I would love to do it. I think that's really cool. I think especially the lay-driven and the lay-centered ministry that you have at East Coast Camp Meeting is pretty awesome. I mean, our admin team now, so we've kind of modeled West Coast similarly because of similar reasons to what you described. And so most of them are lay leaders as well in their local churches who are talented and skilled in specific areas that we brought in. But I love the lay coordinators, lay department leaders. I mean, that's really awesome. And I feel like that's such a important part of people's journey. I guess growing up in this church is serving and being a part of camp meeting. We talked about on the podcast that I don't know, at least for me, camp meeting is the most meaningful and the most fun when you're serving and helping out. So is there kind of a, kind of a anticipation for camp meeting in the East Coast? Like people are excited to go to East Coast camp meeting and they're like waiting for it and like they can't wait for it.
Yeah, I, I mean, I can't speak to now because I'm not here. When I was like heavily involved, absolutely, there was like, yeah, we were all waiting for camp meeting. We were all, we were all leaders. Um, I don't know if this is an accurate statement to say, but I feel like on the West Coast, a lot of our students end up going to like Adventist universities. But in the East Coast, it's, at least when I was in college, it was maybe more like 60-40, 60% public school, 40% Andrews. And so we were a little bit more scattered. And camp meeting was like when we all like came together. So yeah, definitely um anticipation. I mean, when I got here, I took a picture, I sent it to one of my close friends who was like a big part of camp meeting, and he immediately recognized where I was, and we kind of talked about that thing. Like, I remember how excited we were to make the drive into UPJ campus. Um,
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that's another big difference that between the two camp meetings is you guys are actually at a public university, right? And West Coast camp meeting is at PUC. I went there one time, so years ago, and I thought it was a nice campus. It's not like some crazy, beautiful, like some amazing campus, but it's like pretty solid. It's better than PUC as far as like the dorms and some of the buildings are concerned. But what has that been like? What has it been like to be a religious organization working with a public university?
um, on a practical level, it's amazing because we had a couple years where we were at Andrews University, and from like a coordinator practical perspective, it was probably one of the worst experiences I've ever had
At Andrews
um,
University.
at Andrews. Let me give you an example. Um, so when I used to, so I would always focus on children's ministry, so early teens and below, which is junior high and below, and so VBS was kind of our big thing. And my mandate was like, you gotta go crazy on decorations because that's the thing that people see. And so we were given rooms by the university, and we had a room, and so we spent in East Coast camp meeting. We had the leaders come on Thursday before camp meeting, and we have a weekend like retreat kind of a thing to kind of prepare everyone kind of spiritually to have this week, and then also you meet with your department. So we decorated like all day Friday, Saturday night, well into the wee mornings hours of Sunday. And Monday we walk in and everything is stripped down, and there's a professor sitting there, and we're like, "What happened?" And he was like,
Whoa,
"What are you doing here?" We're like, "This is our VBS room." He's like, "I have a class here." So
that's
stuff like that would
crazy.
happen, not just once. So from that perspective, that was terrible. Um,
That is
you know,
unbelievable.
it's unbelievable, right? Like literally, you cannot
That is
believe it. It is actually unbelievable.
wow.
But so public university, they have a staff, they have like a team that does events, and so I working with them is great. But from a spiritual perspective, I mean, for us coming every year for the last like 30 years, I don't know if we have made a spiritual impact in this community. And I say it as an indictment of myself as someone who was part of the core leadership for such a long time. I don't know if we've made a big difference. I know this year they started like a outreach, like a medical outreach program before camp meeting, and hopefully that's the beginning of something different. But yeah, it's
You
still
feel
kind of.
like it's an opportunity that hasn't really been tapped.
I think so. I mean, the main person who's in charge of the events. I mean, we've known her for decades. We're like, I would say we're very friendly because we've known each other for so long, and those relationships, I feel like we can make them, with the cafeteria staff, the janitorial staff, the students who work here over the summer. I feel like we can make more of a connection than I think we have. And I understand why it's difficult. You're running camp meeting. It's not easy to run a program.
Yeah.
but just
I see.
my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Um, as far as like the vibe or the programming or the topics, I think, you know, people in the West Coast, and I don't want to speak for everybody on the West Coast, but we have this idea that the East Coast is more conservative
Mm-hmm.
in terms of their. We're not talking about politically. We're talking about
Mm-hmm.
in terms of their faith and their Adventist beliefs and Adventist doctrine. And I think I don't think there's a better way to ask it except for to just like simply straight up ask it like, how conservative is East Coast camp meeting? Like, what are the topics covered? Is it a lot of like kind of traditional Adventist,
Mm-hmm.
you know, prophecy stuff? Is there like drums? What's like the praise music like? I think
Yeah.
that's something as a person who's not really attended, I think people are curious about, you know, what is it like over there?
Yeah. I think so. In terms of topics, I mean, while I was here, we were doing that 7-year rotation. So while I was here, in terms of what was preached and taught, it was not conservative.
Or
Um,
specifically like
yeah, it was
Adventist?
like Adventist. It was actually very broad and
Okay.
intentionally so. We wanted camp meeting to be the catalyst for someone to be able to kind of restart their spiritual journey, and so we needed it to be a little bit more accessible. Um, so yeah, we didn't really have a lot of like Ellen White seminars or things like that. Um, that is true. I think up to maybe the young adult department, and then above that, they kind of have a little bit more flexibility to choose their topics. So I know those departments have gone into kind of fundamental Adventist beliefs. Not so much in like a we must like conserve our identity. It was more of like, hey, a lot of us may not know what Adventism is. Let's kind of refresh and learn.
Oh, good.
So it's from that kind of perspective. In terms of like the worship and the culture, it's weird because again, when I was growing up, um, the Spencerville praise team would do the main worships. So for high school, and we had a drummer. Like I love him. Like I obviously grew up with him, but we used to joke that his quiet is volume 10, and then his loud is like everything above 11. He's just a loud drummer, like, and that's who we had for a team. And like as someone does worship, if your drum is loud, everything else has to lift to meet the volume of the drums, right? And
Yeah.
so just like by virtue of music, everyone plays loud. So that's where we kind of started, and then since then it's kind of there's no drums. I mean, there's cajones here, and I had a conversation with someone about art of worship and worship in the East Coast, and they were asking, do churches not play drums because of like the conservativeness, or is it a different reason? And my response was, I think that does have a part in it. Even at Spencerville, there was a drama with using drums, but I think another thing that we don't really recognize is a lot of these churches, they don't have people who are trained to play praise, and so there's no one to do and play those kinds or styles of music. And I think we find that at Catechism too. A lot of the people who are doing praise, um, they never had training. They never had someone to teach them how to be worship leaders, how to play as a team. And so because of that, they're kind of limited in the instruments that they can play, I think.
I see. I see. And so that bleeds over into camp meeting
Right,
as well. Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Even if we wanted to have a full team, I don't think anyone here could play the drums. Like they don't know how to.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I
Thanks.
know there's
You're
when I went there back in like I forgot when I went 2011 or something like that. Um, there was this one Chinese restaurant that was like the
Yes.
place that people go. Is that still The place, like, what is it
Um,
called? Is it still the place everyone goes to?
that was actually never the place that people go to.
Oh,
That's
okay.
just where you and I went to.
Okay.
I I'm pretty sure it's called Ling's.
Lings. Okay. All right. That's
Uh,
super Chinesey.
you
Okay.
have to remember we're in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Yeah, but the place that everyone goes to is actually Denny's.
Oh,
Uh,
Denny's.
so for the longest time, the only place to eat here was Denny's. Like there was nowhere else to eat. Johnstown, I don't know, like most people don't know much about Johnstown. Johnstown actually has a huge part in American history. And most people don't know uh, where it is. But yeah,
Okay.
Denny's was the only place to go. And so the weekend when everyone got here, we'd all go to Denny's. And then at the end of camp meeting on Saturday, we would flood Denny's at like midnight. And I used to feel really bad for the wait staff because they'd have literally like 80 Korean people just overrunning the Denny's. And we're like loud. We're like running off of fumes. We just finished camp meeting. We're like going crazy. And these poor um, people of Johnstown Denny's had to deal with us. Um, so yeah, Denny's is the place to go. But there's like a bunch of restaurants. It's
Oh, okay. That's another ministry opportunity there, right? Like they probably
I
knew,
thought so too.
they probably got used to it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, it's that week where all those
Yeah.
people are gonna come and start showing up. We gotta.
Yeah. It is. And then like the Walmart's the same thing, right? Like we used to overrun the Walmart to get supplies and stuff, and
Mm.
I'm sure they hated it when we came.
Um, I think the one last question I wanted to ask you is just if you could share, a favorite or two favorite East Coast camp meeting stories, just from your
Yeah.
experience. Like, what were some of your favorite memories that were like really nice and meaningful for you as someone who like has been a part of it in the admin, in the coordinating, in the department leader, but just like in so many different aspects of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, like what are some of your favorite stories? And I think I'll have maybe one more wrap up question at the end, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I think um well there's one that actually that happened recently. I mentioned my son has a really hard time going to VBS and he can't go in without me, and if he does he'll cry. And so we have like our version of garden cafe called Bro, and we went in and we saw the menu, and my son really wanted, like, they have like the cheese corn dog things.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted it, but they had run out. And so the lady who kind of helps run Afterglow here, um she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, we'll get some more tomorrow, you have to come back tomorrow. And when he came back, he got it. He was like super happy. And so I ran into her outside, and she was asking like how Taylor's doing. And I was telling her like, oh, he's having a hard time going to class. And she was saying like, oh, when my daughter was in VBS, she was the same thing. And she was like, oh, like I couldn't let her go. I almost didn't come, but there was this one teacher who like went above and beyond to make her feel comfortable, and she loved that teacher. And so I was doing the math in my head, and I was like, no, your daughter definitely was there when I was there. And now that you mention it, I remember there was a girl who would never leave one of the leaders. Um, and we were like kind of laughing about it. And the mom was saying how much she appreciated that leader. And I remember because the leader, her name is Chuna. She would have to like hold this girl the entire day to make her feel
Whoa.
safe. And she didn't. And I remember she never complained. She loved doing it. She was one of my church girls actually when I was at Unity. Um, and it was crazy because this is literally more than like 15 years ago, and this mom still has a memory of this leader just cradling her child all day. And I have the memory. I don't know, that was a really cool moment for me, connecting back then and today. And that kind of points to just the dedication of the leaders here, lay leaders who have stuff to do and they're here during cat meeting.
Yeah, they
Another,
sacrifice a lot. They
oh yeah,
sacrifice a lot of
yeah,
time and
mhm.
energy and even money
Money,
to go
yes.
there. Wait, so do the I think I had heard someone that the leaders actually pay
Yeah.
to attend.
Yeah, so um the only thing the leaders get here is a room. And when I say room, I mean like a space to sleep in. Like I mentioned, they're cramming 5 people into a room that's meant for one person. Um, but you had to pay for food and your way. So if you
Yeah,
fly, you got
so
to pay for your
their
flight.
own
Yeah.
travel and food there, they have to pay for it. So they're paying
Food
for their
there.
yeah, so they're paying for their own
Yes.
food, their travel,
Uh-huh.
and then they're just like giving everything
Yeah.
for this program, and then they they come what it's like 10 days you said for
It's
the
10
leaders.
days. Yeah, 10 days.
Yeah, so 10 days, blood, sweat, tears, staying up super late. Like, man, that is so inspirational. Like,
Mhm.
that is so cool. Love
Yeah,
that,
and
man.
it's the same on the West Coast too. You know, I'm not saying the East Coast leaders are more dedicated or anything like that, but it's just it was cool because it connected the two parts of my life back then and
Yeah.
today. And um, yeah, those stories are great. I mean, there's one story where the friend that I sent a picture to, he we called it Mr. Camp Meeting because it was all about camp meeting, and he used to sprain his ankle a lot. And so one year he sprained his ankle, and so he had to ride, you know, those motorized shopping carts.
Yeah.
And this man was just zooming around Walmart, terrorizing people. They broke 4 jars of spaghetti in the aisle because he would like ram his leaders and they drop it. That's a kind of a fun memory.
That's also a type of story about East Coast Camp Meeting as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, like, as you think about being here, I don't, you can't answer this question because you're not part of the admin, but like, do you have any thoughts about the future of East Coast Camp Meeting? Like, I don't think we have any sense of like, is it growing? You know, like, is it going to stay there? Is it like moving in any direction?
Um, I mean, I feel like in terms of growth, so you know, obviously the pandemic messed things up a lot. Pre-pandemic, there was like steady growth. Yeah, everyone was very optimistic. Pandemic happened, they had to restart from scratch, and so much like the West Coast, we're trying to slowly rebuild. I feel like the rebuild process has been faster on the West Coast, um, but on the East, there's trends that are different too. So VBS used to be one of the bigger groups, and then this year it shrank, and we're like really confused because it's not like the English adults shrank either, and usually there's a correlation between English adults and VBS. And so that's kind of weird. But then the high school group I think got a lot bigger than last year. So these numbers we need to sift through because they don't make a lot of sense. But in terms of like health for the future, I think the admin team is expanding. I think um, ministries like Empower and Kainos are supporting. And so that goes a long way. And so my biggest worry was with the leadership because, yeah, I wasn't sure if there were leaders who were available to lead. And coming here and seeing the leaders and also realizing again that they are so young, they have no idea who I am. That's a very encouraging sign that there's hope for the future. There's young
Yeah,
people who are willing to serve.
that's amazing. And to them, you're just that old guy with red hair, you know, like that's so great.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am that old guy with hair. I
Yeah, I'm loving
yeah.
this, by the way. I'm loving this opportunity. Well, thanks, Jason, for being there and letting us know how things are going. And it's good to have a little bit of a presence. Are you? I feel like are you representing Podluck to the East Coast Camp Meeting people?
I hope so. So for those of you who don't know, I am in the lobby and I am mirroring a recording screen on a big TV so that people can see it as they walk by. That's why you see me look up every once in a while. Um, so I'm hoping this kind of attracts attention. There's people who are just like staring at me right now.
I saw some of them in the reflection in the window behind you, just like standing in front of you.
some people have tried to come up to me, like people I know, like older Korean members, and like people have to like usher them aside, like, oh no, they're recording right now. Stuff like that has happened, such as right now.
Just immediately right now that happened as you were talking. That's crazy.
It did. So hopefully they know. My co-host was supposed to be here and help, but he didn't come, so I'm doing just solo. I'm going to West Coast to help him, but he did not come to East Coast to help me. So there's that.
You're a good man. You're a good man. Well, hey, thank you everyone for joining us on this special East Coast Camp Meeting episode of the Podluck. If you have been joining us on the journey, thank you for sticking with us. We hope you will subscribe, send it to people. And again, like, we want this to inspire some conversations. In a couple of weeks, we'll have an episode about West Coast Camp Meeting, and we'll both be there, and how exactly that's going to work out. But if you are listening for the first time because you saw Jason or you saw the old man with red hair in the lobby on the TV, thank you for joining us. We hope that we might be able to get in touch with you and see some of you at the camp meetings. But for now, thanks for joining us. Again, like, subscribe on whatever platform, and we'll see you next time for the next episode of the Podluck.